Welcome back to the Lumiose Post, where we talk about all things Pokemon, and today we're going to be talking about the Ruinous Quartet from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. That is, of course, and a little disclaimer here, because I'll probably be saying their names a lot throughout this video, and we'll probably mess them up every time. That is Chinpao, Chi-Yu, Wo-Chen, and Ting-Lu. So, you know, really cool Pokemon. I love them. Be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of these Pokemon. But until then, let's talk about what we're specifically talking about with these guys. So, I think there's a chance that these Pokemon may play a role in the Teal Mask story, or the Indigo Disc story, or both, in Scarlet and Violet's DLC, The Hidden Treasures of Area Zero. Not only this, but I think they may, in fact, be from Kitakami, or maybe wherever the Indigo Disc is going to be set, because we know it will be set somewhere other than just Blueberry Academy. You know, there's got to be like a region for Blueberry Academy. And I'm very excited to kind of present the different pieces of evidence for this, but let's just go ahead and jump right in. So, first off, the first thing that I'm sure people are saying are, whoa, back up. The Ruinous Quartet are Chinese Pokemon. Kitakami is clearly inspired by the Tohoku region of Japan, and we don't know where the Indigo Disc is set in, but it's probably not China, and you are 100% right. Here's where we're going to have to do something really, really upsetting and difficult, and that is we're going to have to take off our real-world glasses and throw them aside, because the fact is, Pokemon doesn't have to do this by the real world. You know, these Pokemon, while they are Chinese in origin, and even their names are Chinese, they very well could be from a Japanese-based region. Look, we come from a franchise where there are koalas in Hawaii, pandas in France, you know, and just several other examples of just crazy things that shouldn't be, but are. And so, I'm saying all this to say, yeah, there's a chance that these Chinese Pokemon could be from a Japanese region. Another thing, too, is, and people have talked about this for a while, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that perhaps we could never see a China-based region in the Pokemon world. You know, this comes from the idea that, for one, that there is a lot of political tension between Japan and China, and has been for a long time. But even aside from that, there's just the fact that the Chinese government does a lot of censorship. It's very kind of hard to get stuff passed in the Chinese government, like get things to be open there that's foreign. For example, I'm a big Marvel fan, and I saw people were making a huge deal about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 actually being able to release in China. And the reason this is because, you know, a lot of Marvel movies in the past few years haven't made it in China. So, you know, again, just showing how heavily censored the Chinese government, like how heavily they censor things and how hard it is to kind of get your stuff in there. So, if Pokemon were to do a China-based region, it would be a very tedious process to do one that would still pass in the Chinese government, because, you know, you have to make sure you're not being disrespectful to the Chinese government. You have to make sure, you know, that if there's any characters that are based off something, similar to how, like, Professor Magnolia seems to be inspired partially by the Queen of England, well, you have to make sure that you put them in a really good light. You know, you don't want to disrespect anybody and then get your whole game canceled from a whole region, which is a pretty big region that, you know, plays Pokemon. It's a very large demographic that plays Pokemon. So, yeah, they may not do that. I say all this to say that if they're not going to ever do a China region, then, you know, these Pokemon, if they want to give them a story about their home region, they will have to change the location of their home region. And so they may do that in Kitakami. They may say they're from Kitakami and just have, as well as the very heavily Japanese influences in Kitakami, there may be some Chinese stuff too, in a similar way to how in Scarlet and Violet, there's like a whole section of the map that is not remotely Spanish, but is in fact very Asian, and also a lot of Pokemon drawing from Asian themes, both Chinese, like the Ruinous Quartet here, and even a lot of Japanese themes as well. So, again, all this to say, it's a possibility. Calm down. I know it's not fun. I would love a China region. It's such a beautiful country. But it may not happen, and we gotta accept that. Whether we like it or not, it may not ever happen. In fact, it's likely to not ever happen. So, let's give these Pokemon a home, in Kitakami. And this is very simple to do this. First off, Kitakami, and some of its, languages, and some of the languages, they call Kitakami a word that basically translates to northeast. So if we are to believe that it's east of Paldea, which would also make sense because Japan is east of Spain, then it's possible that this is the country in the east that is referenced when they're talking about the Ruinous Quartet coming from a land in the east. It's, again, I know you want China, but it might be Kitakami. Also, some people believe that it being northeast means that it could be the northeast part of the Paldea map. It could be just on the other side of that mountain that you'll see if you go the furthest northeast you can in Paldea. It does say Kitakami is like nestled under a mountain, so it could be on the other side of that mountain. Now, I know many of you want South Kalos or Kalos to be there, but it may not be. The Pokemon world does not have to equal the real world, so it could be Kitakami over there. Again, I know this isn't ideal, but try to look at this video not as something you want to be true, but something that could be true. GameFreak could very well do this. Even if it's not that area, it's very likely that this country, this region, Kitakami, will have a pretty close relationship to Paldea. Your school is going to this place, this region, for their festival. So, it has to be a place that probably has close ties to Paldea. And, if you look at the story, it's a guy who came from this country to Paldea and traded things to the king. So it's very possible that they had like a little route connected between them, whether by sea or land or both, that, was similar to the Silk Road in the real world, where it was like a trade between the two countries, and other countries, but especially those two, like one being the start and one being the end. I think that's very, very possible. I think they are going to tie Kitakami's history to Paldea, and I say what better way than to, say, oh, this is actually the origin of the items that would eventually become the Ruinous Quartet, which are Paldean Pokemon. Now, another thing to talk about is the fact that they will likely tie into the Indigo Disc as well, in my opinion. Now, the reason I say this is because look at the story of these Pokemon. They are items that came to life once the king got possession of them and caused havoc. And then, they were sealed away and all this. Well, we know that Indigo Disc will focus on Terapagos, which is a Pokemon that we've kind of been talking about for a while before we knew it was Terapagos. We've been calling it the third legend of Scarlet and Violet. And people have proposed that it may be responsible for Paradox Pokemon and the Terrestrial phenomenon, the latter of which is definitely true. I mean, just look at the thing. But if this is the case, people are suggesting that it could be a Pokemon that is bringing the imagination to life, and that Paradox Pokemon are just imagined, but Terapagos brought them to life. Again, if that's the case, or even if Terapagos has any reality space-time bending powers, it's very possible that Terapagos could have been the thing responsible for these Pokemon coming to life, and just people never put that together and said it was the grudges in them that brought it to life. It's just kind of an old folksy tale about these Pokemon, similar to like Kadabra being like, oh, it said once a boy woke up as a Kadabra. It's just folksy. It's not necessarily confirmed scientific knowledge, but the truth is that the Ruinous Quartet was brought to life by the third legendary. So again, you tie them in to not only the teal mask by the items potentially being from there, but into the Indigo Disc with the mascot Pokemon being responsible for their creation. I think this makes a lot of sense because honestly, as cool as these legends are, they didn't have much story. You know, you hear about, oh, there were these treasures of ruin that became Pokemon. They were sealed away. Go find the seals. So you find the seals and you get TMs for nasty plot. That's it. That's all you get for finding these things. So again, I say do a little bit more with them, you know. And especially we know that Indigo Disc will kind of continue the story of the Teal Mask as well as Scarlet and Violet's story. We know this because for one, we see the characters on the Teal Mask are also on the Indigo Discs, like promo art. But also we know this because it says on the official website that in order to play the Indigo Disc, you will have to have completed the story of Scarlet and Violet. Now, it doesn't say this explicitly, like where the story is considered completed, but I would imagine it would be whenever you have gotten the credits, which would be after the Way Home plot. So after you've gone to Area Zero and fought, you know, Sada and Toro and all this, it would be after that. And then it also says that you have to complete the Teal Mask. So this clearly is, you know, evidence that you are going to have to beat those stories because they're going to be continued in this one. So again, getting the Ruinous Quartet could be a way of doing that. And now the Ruinous Quartet are not mandatory for completion of Scarlet and Violet. But maybe they will be for the Teal Mask. Maybe in the Teal Mask, you'll have to go back and get these Ruinous Quartet. Another thing that kind of ties them to this area is the 3 new Pokemon. While I don't think they'll be Dark-type, because I don't think they'll want to overlap 2 of their types with 2 of the Ruinous Quartet, they do look very Dark-type, and so they kind of look like they'd all fit in the same region together. You know, if you look at designs, not origins, not names, but just designs, it does look like Chi-Yu, Chien-Pao, Wo-Chien, and Ting-Lu could come from the same region as Monkey-Dory, Okidogi, and Pheasantipity. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts on this. All I'm saying is make sure you go ahead and look for those Ruinous Quartets because you may need them in the Teal Mask, and I definitely think you may need them in the Indigo Disc as well. Be sure to let me know what you think of this theory, as well as the Ruinous Quartet. Which of these was your favorite of the Ruinous Quartet? Mine, oh man, that is so hard. I gotta tell you, my least favorite was Ting-Lu, but he has grown on me. I love Ting-Lu now. I think my favorite, though, is Chi-Yu. I love fish, and he's such a cute little fish guy. But yeah, let me know your favorite in the comments below. Be sure to also like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss our future Pokemon videos. If we get more information on the Ruinous Quartet being involved in Kitakami, well, you know we'll be covering it. And until next time, I will see all of you later.